Good morning, everybody. If you could kindly take the seats that are available, we're ready to begin. Thank you. For anybody who would like to sit outside, there are headsets as well, but of course, perhaps you'd rather stand. There are a few seats, but most of them, I believe, from what I can see, are now taken. I think there's just one remaining, and I'm not sure if Piero Messina is here. Well, a very, very warm welcome to you all. I know it's a very exciting day, so good morning, Your Excellencies, Minister Schneider, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we also have huge international interest today, so it's live streamed and it will be uploaded shortly afterwards to the government website. There's a public viewing also because there has been so much interest in today's event. Why are we here? Well, of course, it's to launch the Luxembourg Space Agency, LSA. The first mission, an incredible success. You all accepted the invitation. And you know, there's a lot of space out there, but we needed more space. And even if we're not in the same room right now, there'll be plenty of opportunity to mix with the people you may want to talk about in the lunch afterwards in the Moudam Cafe. And for those watching virtually, you'll have plenty of opportunity to find people online through the various websites. Space. It's a big place, and it's literally getting bigger day by day. Interest in space is probably present in all of us as children. And then as we get older and life gets in the way, we find perhaps other career paths. But working in space doesn't mean everybody has to be an astronaut. The Luxembourg Space Agency is set up to be the first point of contact for every space-related matter in Luxembourg. LSA will sit at the center of the whole ecosystem. As the small strip of space becomes increasingly commercialized around our Earth, Luxembourg wants to lead that new frontier and act as a focal point for worldwide interest. Under the remit of the Minister of Economy, our Deputy Prime Minister, Etienne Schneider, along with his team, have developed LSA with 4 pillars to sustain its growth and success: skills, expertise, innovation, and funding. And we'll learn more about that later. The aim is to harness a pool of talent across engineering, science, business, education, financial, legal, and service sectors, a space for everyone to work in space. Marc Serres will be CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency. His main mission will be to make it all happen, to find and foster talent from education, primary through secondary, up into the University of Luxembourg and the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology list. Seed emerging businesses and industries. Help with the nuts and bolts of the legal and financial aid. And he will achieve this through a network of collaborators to build public-private initiatives. So to talk about these distant frontiers, I move to the front row and invite our Deputy Prime Minister, Etienne Schneider, to the stage. Thank you. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I see that we are more successful today than Mr. Macron's event last week because people have to stand up over here. But I guess the room is a little bit smaller than the one last week. But I would like to really thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure to welcome this vibrant Luxembourgish new space and space community over here today. All this started a few years ago when I first met Dr. Pete Worden, who was at that time the Director General of NASA Ames Research Center. He was visiting me in my office and he was talking to me about the commercial opportunities in space, about space mining. And I must admit that all this sounded like science fiction to me, and I had two questions in mind. First of all, what did this guy smoke before coming to my office? And second, how do I get rid of him again? But, he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to convince me about these opportunities, and he got me in touch with many experts in this field, and actually they convinced me about the opportunities of new space for a tiny country like Luxembourg, because Luxembourg is a country which has always been courageous and which always tried to reinvent itself. In the 1850s, when we discovered iron ore in Luxembourg, we didn't have the capital, we didn't have the engineers to develop it. And we made a huge step forward at that time when we decided to open our frontiers to foreigners and to foreign capital. And we succeeded in developing one of the most important steel industries in Europe. Then in the 1970s, when the decline of the steel industry brought the country into trouble, we decided to become a financial center. And at that time as well, we only had some 3 or 4 banks in Luxembourg, and nobody believed in Luxembourg being able to become an important financial center. But nowadays, I guess everybody knows about the importance of the financial center over here in Luxembourg. We decided in the 80s to get a maritime pavilion, even though we are a landlocked country. Nowadays, we are very successful with this maritime pavilion. In the 1980s as well, we decided to launch this company together with private investors called SES, which has now become the biggest private satellite operator in the world. And so I think that also this initiative will for sure be a success. And what was important and interesting to me when we were talking about this and when we were talking about the possibility to develop these activities in Luxembourg is the fact that we would have been, or that we would be the first movers in Europe, and one of the first movers on Earth. And that's really thrilling, and that will really help us to develop something really important. And that's why I'm really grateful to have all of you here. That's why I'm grateful to have your commitment to Luxembourg in order to develop this. What did we do first when we decided to go for this venture? First and most important thing was to check the legal framework. The legal framework, which actually didn't exist. We had to work with the United Nations Space Treaty, which dates back to 1967, and at that time it really was science fiction, doing business in space. And this space treaty doesn't allow, but it doesn't forbid to do commercial activities in space. So that's a little bit, that was a positive thing. But then we had to put on a legal framework which would allow companies to possess whatever they find in space and to commercialize whatever they find in space, because it's important to them in order to find venture capitalists who are eager to invest into these companies, because nobody would like to invest into a company who's doing activities which are not legally secured. So that was a very, very important step. And we made a parallel to the international sea, which you're not allowed as a country to possess, but you're allowed to fish, and you're allowed to commercialize the fish you find in this international sea. So that's a little bit the parallel we took. And then second thing we put in place was the research and development grants. Research and development grants dedicated to new space activities. It took me exactly 10 minutes in a government meeting in order to get a budget of 200 million euros in order to develop this new activity. Most of my colleagues in government thought the same thing I thought about Dr. Pete Worden a few months ago. So what did the guy smoke before he came to the Council of Ministers? But they gave me the 200 million, and we didn't even spend them yet. We only spent some 40 million euros, but look around you, look around what we achieved with this little money until now. And so that was important to me, because it gives the right sign to the community that we are really committed, that we not only put in place a legal framework, but that we really committed to invest, even as a country, into this venture. Then we created a Master in Space Communication and Media Law together with the University of Luxembourg, which I'm very grateful to. Today we signed another agreement where we are creating an interdisciplinary Space Master degree, which gives the technical expertise to the young people who want to work into this domain later on. And in a few days, we are going to launch a reserved alternative investment fund of some 100 million euros, which will be dedicated to space, to the space industry, and which will be, as I said, public-private partnership where the government will take a share of 30 to 40%. I know that there are many other private initiatives to set up investment funds over here, which will be dedicated to space activities. Nowadays, so 2 years after we launched the initiative, we have some 20 new space companies which already settled down over here in Luxembourg. There are 3 more which will be announced in 2 weeks' time. There are some 15 more which are at the point to take a positive decision to settle down in Luxembourg, and we've got some 150 more companies, research institutes in the pipeline which are discussing with us, which want to discuss with us about further cooperation, about settling down in Luxembourg, about doing business together. So all this is why it is so important to me to launch today this Luxembourg Space Agency, in order to to professionalize our approach towards this new community. And I'm happy to announce, but Lisa announced already, that Dr. Marc Serres will be the first CEO of this Luxembourg Space Agency. So that's really, I think, a big and important move towards the professional development of these activities. He's got 12 people in his staff until now, but we are going to increase this as soon as possible. Today, commercial space activities represent some 2% of our national GDP, which is one of the highest ratios in the European Union. And I'm pretty sure that if we continued in the same pace than we started this initiative, that this percentage will go up to even 5% of our GDP in the next 10 years. I think that one can say already today that Luxembourg takes more space in space than on Earth, which is quite easy, I must admit. But I think if we continue our activities at the same pace we did until now, I'm pretty sure that Luxembourgish will even become the official language in space. So having said this, I would like to thank, first of all, Dr. Pete Worden, who was the guy I was first talking to about this possible venture. I also want to thank the former Director General of the French Space Agency, Jean-Jacques Dordain, who helped me quite a lot. Of course, George Schmidt, who used to be the Consul General in California, and who made the links between Dr. Pete Worden and myself, and who's assisting me in the advisory board with all the other colleagues in the advisory board, former minister. I'm happy to have you as well, Jean-Louis, at this board. So great thank to all of you. A great thank as well to my fantastic team at the Ministry of the Economy for their commitment to this Space Resource Initiative, but also I would like to thank the University of Luxembourg for their commitment, for their support, the FNR, the Fonds National de la Recherche. I would like to thank Lux Innovation for the stuff they made available to the ministry in order to further develop these activities. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, SCS, of course, the ADEM, who is actively working together with us, and of course the Ministry of Media and Communication, who's a really important partner in the development of these activities. And I said it right away at the press conference that I'm pretty sure that it would be a good idea for the next government to merge these activities between the space activities of the Ministry of Media and Communication together with the Space Agency. I think that would be a good idea. And then last but not least, I would like to thank all of you guys for your great commitment to this venture. And I really hope that this venture will continue even after October 14th, with or without me. Thank you so much.
And now the Luxembourg Space Agency visual identity is born. And now please congratulate and welcome to the stage the person who will bring all of this together somehow, the CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency, Marc Sarez.
Your Excellencies, dear Minister, ladies and gentlemen, dear partners, dear friends, I'm extremely proud and honored to be given this opportunity to become the first CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency. And I would like to thank you, dear Minister, for the trust you are placing in me and in the team that will give life to the Luxembourg Space Agency. So the agency has a primary objective to develop the space ecosystem in Luxembourg. And I insist on the word ecosystem. It is not enough anymore to provide the companies already established or the new ones with solely support for R&D activities. They need a place where they can find the right surrounding environment to develop their business. The work we have done within the Ministry of the Economy since 2013 has led us to better consider the multidimensional character of the space sector needs. Supporting companies to develop their activities or helping newcomers to establish in Luxembourg necessitates tackling the challenges of those entrepreneurs from various angles. And it starts with inspiring and generating enthusiasm for space at school, educating and training our young professionals, assisting companies in their innovation and research and development activities, as well as supporting them to have a robust and well-financed development. In order to address this variety of challenges that the companies will encounter, the agency is assisted by a network of partners. Partners who have already the right competence to help the agency to address these aspects. And those partners will contribute in a mutually beneficial manner to implement the strategic lines or the pillars of the agency. Expertise. The idea behind is to reinforce the existing expertise in Luxembourg and to expand it to new capabilities with a view to create attractive commercial opportunities. As you have seen, as you will see in the next video, SES, the Groupement Luxembourgeois de l'Aéronautique et de l'Espace, the Chamber of Commerce will be our partners. SES is a worldwide leading space company with a deep understanding of the market and the technologies. The relationship with GLAE will reinforce the already existing dialogue with the industrial community. And Chamber of Commerce will provide specific support through the services of the House of Entrepreneurship, like the one-stop shop or the investor care platform. Innovation. Competition on the market is always pushing companies to deliver better, less expensive products and services. Innovation is a key success factor in high technology domains such as space. The Space Agency, notably through its active participation in the European Space Agency, will facilitate the access to research and development financing. In this context, Lux Innovation, IPIL, and Technopore will complement the instruments and programs of the agency. Lux Innovation has already a long tradition in supporting industry in their innovation processes. IPIL will advise on all the questions related to intellectual property, a topic that becomes more and more important for highly technological and innovative companies. And Technopore will contribute with its well-established services, especially services to startups. Skills. The space is not the only sector impacted by the lack of technical and scientific staff. There is a broad need to encourage and motivate our young generation to engage in scientific and technical careers. The fascination that space is generating is a perfect vehicle to inspire and create the enthusiasm and interest of children and young adults. This educational dimension of the development of the ecosystem here in Luxembourg is definitely a subject for which the agency needs support. The Luxembourg Science Center has already been awarded the role of Luxembourg E0. E0 stands for European Space Education Resources Office. It is an initiative of the European Space Agency with the idea to use space as a teaching instrument in primary and secondary schools. Through the E0, ESA will provide teaching material in relation with space. The University of Luxembourg is our partner for the higher education component. The university plans to propose an interdisciplinary master in space with a view to develop local talents needed by the companies present in Luxembourg. In addition, National Employment Development Agency, ADEM, will be our reference partner for the recruitment processes. Last but not least, funding. The agency will also provide innovative financial solutions. SNCI has the required expertise to support the agency and has already a portfolio of different financing instruments that can already be used. The recently established Luxembourg Space Tech Angels offered to support companies in their early phases to elaborate a solid funding strategy and helping them in fundraising process. National Research Fund will also be our partner when it comes to the funding of research activities and the development of the research capabilities in the space domain. Unfortunately, this short summary is only partly reflecting the richness of the arrangements that the agency has already concluded with these partners. We are convinced that through those partnerships, the agency will be well equipped to support industry in their daily challenges, and that it will lead to the most favorable environment for this sector to continue to grow. Expertise, innovation, skills, funding, those are the 4 strategic lines on which the agency will concentrate to make Luxembourg the place for space development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mark. And as he alluded to, of course, we have a video now which is really giving the floor to the partners of the Luxembourg Space Agency to develop the 4 pillars: skills, innovation, expertise, and funding.
We're really supportive of the creation of the Space Agency because we see real benefits to SES, and in particular, we think in terms of education, in bringing on graduates and postgraduates, bringing them into SES, having them experience our business from a space standpoint, and also surrounding kind of our business with other related industries and other related businesses that can support kind of our objectives. So we see this as a very mutually beneficial thing, which is going to help SES in its development, and where SES can also contribute to the development of the Space Agency.
Success is part of our roadmap. I think in order to be successful, we need to be successful, but our agency needs to be also successful. So we have to make sure that our needs are well understood and early identified so that we can stay proactive, and I think that will be a key challenge for the Luxembourg agency. On the other hand, we also know which profiles we need, and I think if you want to create a sustainable job market for space industry in Luxembourg, we have a key role to play where all our members are ready to take over that challenge and assume that responsibility.
At the Chamber of Commerce, we welcome the initiative of the Ministry of the Economy to launch the Luxembourg Space Agency in a coordinated and business-friendly approach. Indeed, I believe that bundling the efforts of the whole ecosystem in a strong public-private partnership will greatly benefit the development of space-related activities in Luxembourg. I am convinced that this is the right step to create a new dynamic momentum around the space sector as a diversification pillar.
We should ensure that our startup support programs are equally attractive for startups from the space sector so that they can set up in Luxembourg and thrive here very positively. Equally, the advice we provide to all types of companies on R&D funding instruments, be it at the EU or national level, need to be absolutely responsive to the needs of the companies coming from the space sector.
So EPIL will create awareness among the beneficiaries of the agency's programs in order to make them aware about what intellectual property is, why intellectual property is important for them, and how they can benefit from protection of their intangible assets.
Today, thanks also to Luxembourg government's proactive approach in terms of marketing of the space sector, we have 8 companies from this sector hosted at Technoport, and active discussion with quite a few more. We therefore really strongly believe that Technoport is going to be the partner of choice for the Luxembourg Space Agency in order to develop everything which is related to incubation of innovative companies in Luxembourg.
The Luxembourg Space Initiative is clearly one beautiful way in which the University of Luxembourg can contribute to the development of the country. To support the space industry, the new space agency will need talent and technology. The University of Luxembourg wants to contribute to this vision by training the next generation of space experts and by intensifying research in the domain of space. Our next concrete step is the launch of an interdisciplinary space master to intensify training of the future generation of space experts. Students in this master program will gain skills in both business and technology. Internships will help them gain access to pioneers of the space industry.
When it comes to the Luxembourg Space Agency, our objective is to become the reference partner in terms of human resources, so recruiting the right talents to work in the new space sector in Luxembourg.
We are planning to have a planetarium. That planetarium will be the largest in the broader region, and in addition to that, the most technologically advanced, again, to help us better develop the knowledge, the enthusiasm, and the commitment of the general public, in particular youth, towards space, the space program, the space agency.
Well, as NCI will closely cooperate with the new Luxembourg Space Agency to identify business opportunities in the space resource sector. I think that as NCI brings a lot of expertise and experience to the table with regard to assessing and apprehending business models. But we need a new Luxembourg Space Agency to investigate the technology potential of the companies, their innovation potential, and then we will assess from the financial side the project. And if both organizations come to a positive conclusion, the instruments of NCI equity and credit instruments might be activated.
It is very well known that our government has lately invested a lot in positioning Luxembourg as a main European hub for space business. It is also very well known that research and science are key elements in further fostering the innovative space industry by playing an important role in enabling and sustaining their competitiveness and success on a global market. And we are firmly committed to get on board and enhance our strategic role by supporting the country's efforts in the space domain.
So Luxembourg Space Tech Angels will be able to facilitate mentoring and coaching capacities if the Space Agency put up such programs. We will be able to distribute knowledge about Luxembourg as a space hub through our formal and informal network. We would be able to help the Space Agency in being a positive supporter, distributing the positive buzz about Luxembourg as a space tech or a hub.
Mr. Schneider, Mr. Serres. We're going to have a few question and answers now, so Mr. Schneider, if you could sit in the center. Thank you very much. And Mr. Serres just there, thank you. And the microphones are just there. So, Minister Schneider, thank you so much for your talk earlier. You were saying that you had the knock on the door and you weren't convinced straight away that space mining was a good idea, but you are very much pro for the economy of Luxembourg and perhaps for other countries as well. It's a great idea to be investing in space. So do you have some kind of childhood, deep-rooted fascination with space yourself?
Actually, no. I'm always asked if I wanted to become an astronaut or something like that. No, I'm definitely not. But you know, for me, it's another. I've got another approach. I see a politician, a minister, should have a vision for its country, should have a long-term vision in order to do something positive for its country, for its economy. In my case, you know, just managing the day-to-day business. That's not the business of a minister. That's at least how I see it. And so I was always looking for a new economic sector which could really help Luxembourg. Does it work? No. Yeah, it does. Yeah, which could really help Luxembourg in the development of its future economic activities. And I thought that that the Space Resource Initiative.
I think it's unidirectional.
I thought that this. I thought that the Space Resource Initiative could be really something important and positive for Luxembourg because, as I told you before, we are the first movers in the European Union, in Europe in general. We are second in the world, and I see the potential of this, and that's why I'm trying to really develop this. And I'm trying to put everything in place before the elections in October. And I think with the launch of the Luxembourg Space Agency and the launch of the fund, with the legal framework, with the research development grants we put in place, with the cooperation with the University of Luxembourg, putting in place 2 different masters, I think this has been done.
I'm just going to pause you for one moment because I'm not sure the live stream can pick up what you're saying despite not having the microphone. Thank you.
Do they hear me like that? I hope so.
You have a strong voice. Can the back row hear Mr. Schneider? Yes.
Okay, great. So that was the idea. You know, for me it was important to put all this in place before the elections of October 14th, so that the community is sure about, or more or less sure about the fact that this will continue even after the election, and even if I might maybe not be there anymore. But you know, one never knows. But I think it would be a huge mistake to stop this venture after the election. So now everything is put in place, everything's positive, everything looks great. I told you about all the companies which settled already down, all the companies which are interested in settling down in Luxembourg. Now I think we should continue on this in this pace.
And just to push the point a little bit, why did they approach Luxembourg, these people who have an interest in space and came knocking on your door? Why did they choose you? Did you have a contact already with them?
Actually, I think since we decided to launch this initiative.
While he's just getting another microphone, I'll turn to you, Mark Serres, and just to ask you, well, we'll see. Oh.
So the creation of the Luxembourg Space Agency does absolutely not put into question the Space Resources.lu initiative. I think this is a flagship of the agency. We have seen over the last year that this has really created an enormous interest, and this is the initiative that really brought Luxembourg.
That's space.
So I try again. And brought Luxembourg on the international map. I think this visionary attitude of Luxembourg is the reason why the people are interested to work with us. And so I think we will definitely continue to work on the Space Resources.lu initiative. This is extremely inspiring, and it will create the long-term benefits for the country. So at the same time, here we try, to create the short-term opportunities, attracting companies that will create the value for our economy. And at the same time, we are looking into the future and see how this new space economy will develop.
I'm not sure if there is another headset up there. If there is, perhaps we'll just get Mark Serres set up with one as well. Whilst we move to another video, Jan Werner is the Director General of the European Space Agency. Couldn't make it in person, but I know Luxembourg has a very close relationship, being a full member since 2005. So here's Jan Werner.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I cannot be with you at this very important date of an inauguration of a Luxembourg Space Agency. So far, we have been the Space Agency of Luxembourg. So now you are creating your own space agency. Is that something in contradiction? I don't think so. So we are ready to continue in our strong cooperation with Luxembourg with all the competence ESA has. And Luxembourg has also some very special ideas how to go into space. I mean, for instance, mining, asteroid mining, and other activities. So the idea to really work together between the Luxembourg Space Agency and the European Space Agency can be a very good way forward also for Europe. And by putting together our competence, and I believe this could be done in what I call a network of agencies, we really strengthen the European idea in space, the European activities in space. So I hope that looking to our convention, a network of space agencies could strengthen our cooperation, and therefore I congratulate Luxembourg for this very important step, and I'm looking forward to cooperate very intensively with you. Thank you very much.
Mark, to you, how will this cooperation exist? How will it manifest? What will it be like for you cooperating with ESA?
Well, the creation of the agency does not change the way we will work with ESA. I think ESA remains an extremely important partner for Luxembourg. We will not replace what ESA is doing. Even though we are called Luxembourg Space Agency, I believe our focus remains slightly different from the one of the European Space Agency. But it's a unique European body. They have a fantastic pool of resources to which we will have access as well. And it would be really crazy not to do that. So Jan mentioned the potential contradiction, but I don't think that here it's the case. We have already a very good cooperation with them. We have our national program that is technically implemented through the European Space Agency, and it will continue like that. And we also offer to young graduates the possibility to have their first job within ESA. And this is definitely something that is much appreciated. And this young graduate training program has now more and more success, and that will continue. So there may be also questions from the audience, because I think I need maybe every one of you, about the evolution of ESA. We have started a working group with ESA to reflect on how we can also adapt ESA within our national program to better answer the needs of our industry and essentially the change that is operated for the moment in industry. And so this is a very important step that Luxembourg will push, and we hope that these sort of pilot projects that we start to do on our scale with ESA will also have a more general impact. And as Minister, you said, this will also have a European dimension in the future.
Thank you, Mark. Has anybody asked you yet if it was necessary to set up the Luxembourg Space Agency?
No.
Well, was it necessary?
Yes, I think so. I think it was the logical consequence of everything we did until now. And I must tell you that we started this initiative together with, under the lead of Mario Grotz with his team at the ministry, but also, and then I'm coming back to your question where the mics didn't work, together with my team my communications team, under the lead of Paul Zenners, which was extremely important because at the one side we had this great team of people who knew about how attracting businesses, how developing business models, and on the other side this perfect team of communication guys who know how to sell such an initiative and how to make sure that everybody knows about Luxembourg and knows about our initiative. And these two teams worked together, and the result is that we're sitting here today, and that so many companies are interested in Luxembourg, so many settled down in Luxembourg, so many media always want to get interviews with me, with him, with Mario, with our teams in order to know more about what we're doing. So that's really important. But I think, and in order to come back to your question, it was just a question of time when we had to switch over from, let's say, the Ministry of the Economy to a proper space agency. And that's what we're doing right now, even though the team will still be located in the Ministry of the Economy for the moment. But in the near future, we are going to bring them to new offices so that they will really have their own space agency, but always under the political lead, at least of the Ministry of the Economy, or at least the ministry which would be in charge of space resources.
And just to follow up again with you, Mr. Schneider, a year ago in Space News, you said that Luxembourg will become the Silicon Valley of space resources. Is that still your position? What's happened in the last year?
Yes, absolutely. I told you that since we launched the initiative, there are some 20 companies which decided to settle down in Luxembourg and who are here right now. They are building up their stuff and their activities. There are another 3 which will be announced in 2 weeks' time. There are another 15 which are at the point to take the decision to settle down, some 150 which are still in the pipeline. So, you know, the initiative was a huge success. That's, I think, the conclusion of what we did over the last 2 years. And so I think, yes, if we continued on this way, on this track, then Luxembourg will become the Silicon Valley of space technology, space mining over here. I would love other countries, especially in the European Union, to cooperate with Luxembourg and to go on the same way in order to develop these activities, because I think now we have the United States, which are doing really great job in the development of space activities and space business activities, and there's Luxembourg. And then there are some who are still thinking about doing so. Some are a little bit more advanced, others are not. But we think, you know, the opportunities in space are unlimited. And we should try to get partnerships in order to develop these possible activities as soon as possible and in a cheaper way. Because if we have to do everything on ourselves, it will just not be feasible. But if we can partner with other countries, then we will be able to decide on what are we going to do, who's going to do what, who's putting money into what dimension of this new business, and then we bring it together, bring the results together. I think that would be in the interest of humankind as well. And there again, we will be at the United Nations Space Treaty of 1967, which states that space belongs to humankind. So if we are able to put our forces together and to develop this new activity in a way where it will be at the advantage of everything, of humankind, then we are really doing a great job. And then maybe one last sentence, we should try to avoid to commit the same mistakes in the economic development of space than we did on Earth. So I think we should learn from what we did over the last 250 years of industrialization of the world, you know, and not to copy these mistakes and errors in space.
Thank you very much. And the final word to you then. What is the thing that most excites you about this new role? And thinking about the 4 pillars, is there any of those 4 pillars where you are actively seeking? I know, I'm sure it's all of the pillars you're actively seeking for new partners, cooperations, but any one of those in particular that you will work hardest on initially?
That's a difficult question. What I can tell you is that having a background in technology and having been working a few years also with industry, I think what is exciting is when you have a company that starts really being successful with the activities they have, and that what you have done as sort of supporter to their activities really helped them to be successful. And this is something that we have seen with existing companies, those that we support since now several years. And we hope that the next few years, I hope that we will not have to wait 10 years, but that the next 2-3 years will show these first companies that established here in Luxembourg, that they will show their first successes. And I think this is probably for the whole team the moment where we can be proud about the work we have done. This is our success, is if the companies are successful.
Thank you both so much for your time. You're all invited now to a lunch in the beautiful Moudam Cafe nearby. For those watching online, thank you for your attention. The whole of this launch will be uploaded to the government's website, gov.lu, directly afterwards, Facebook site of the Ministry of Economy as well. And of course, I'm quite sure that the Luxembourg Space Agency will very soon have many, many followers in all sorts of domains, and the social media will be sparking as well once things get going. So congratulations once more for your new role as CEO. Thank you all for your attention. Have a lovely lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really nice.